What's up, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the QB Factory Reboot brought to you by SB Nation and Bleeding Green Nation. We are recording on a victorious Wednesday. It's December 22nd to be exact, and the Philadelphia Eagles are now 7-7 after defeating the Washington football team at home on Tuesday, 27-17. And I must say, it's been a really wild football week. It's been a really crazy, wild, it was a crazy, wild Tuesday night game. And I mean, from the interception that bounced off Dallas Goedert's heel to Jalen Hurts's fumble, and then they eventually got things going. It was just a wild game, but they came through, they pulled through with the victory over the Washington football team. And we're here, we're back after the bye week to talk about what happened week 15 against Washington. We're going to discuss what we saw from Jalen Hurts. This was his first game back after he suffered his ankle sprain, and then we went on the bye week. And then we're also going to touch on what we saw from Garrett Gilbert for the Washington football team and look ahead to the remainder of the season. The Eagles are preparing to host the Giants. This is going to be their second time playing the Giants this season. So we're going to touch on that a little bit and everything that's going down in that franchise. So yeah, but the Eagles currently are in a virtual tie with the Vikings and the Saints for the final NFC wildcard spot. I looked up a stat according to ESPN's football power index. The Eagles' playoff chances increased to 46% with their win over Washington. But before we get things started, don't forget to rate, leave a written review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media at BGN_radio on Twitter and at Bleeding Green Insta on Instagram. I'm your host, Raichele, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, the one and only QB expert, Mark Schofield. Hello, Mark. It's a wild week. It's Christmas week. How are you feeling?
I'm doing well, Raichele. It's great to be back with you. We had a nice little bye week to sort of recover. Getting ready for the holiday. I've been basically elbow deep in cookie dough for the past 24 hours, and I will remain there for the next 24 hours because, as I was telling you before the show, our neighborhood has kind of turned this into a bit of a competition with cookie tins and holiday cookies and all sorts of craziness. And so I'm trying to keep up with everybody else, but good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta, instead of a song lyric, instead of a movie reference, I'm going with a meme reference.
Ooh.
I'm going with a meme reference because as somebody, it was interesting. We spent some time over the weekend actually out in Ohio to see some friends that we haven't seen in a long time. My wife's lifelong friend and her family live in Australia, but they were finally able to travel back to Illinois to see their family. And so they're staying in the States for like a month and a half, and we met them like halfway. And I'm trying to like have conversations with other adults. And it's like, well, did you see this on Twitter or did you see this on Instagram? And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Because I spend way too much of my life online. But I did want to reference a meme here at the outset. It's one of my favorites. It's a high school football player being interviewed after a game. And he's asked a question, and his answer is, they had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. And that's how I felt watching the first 10 to 12 minutes of that game last night.
Yes.
Because I was having this fear, Raichele, that we were going to have a very awkward conversation here on Wednesday about Jalen Hurts, about the direction of this team, about the playoffs, about all sorts of things. But then the switch flipped. They righted the ship. They got a critical win over Washington, a divisional win, which who knows could play a role in tiebreakers and things like that. But they had us in the first half or so. I'm not going to lie. I was a little worried.
I agree. I mean, before I even drop my song lyric, I did want to say, fun fact, my mom doesn't even let us open our gifts unless we bake cookies the night before. She's just made it like a thing since we were little. It's like, if you don't bake cookies for Santa, you can't open your gifts. So I'm like, the cookie factory. I see
the cookie factory
going on.
Yeah, I mean, I made 90 cookies on Tuesday night. We're recording this. It's now like 1 or so Wednesday afternoon. I've already got another 34 cookies that just came out of the oven. I've got 3 more varieties to get through before Christmas Eve on Friday night. So I've got to make the Christmas trees. I've got to make the chewy molasses crinkles. I've got to make the Grammy's old-fashioned chocolate cookies. And I've already made the sugar cookies, which the kids like to decorate. I've already made the cakey chocolate chip. And my favorite, the Sprinterells, which they're like stamps, and they're like basically anise and lemon undertones to them. And you make them, you form them with stamps, and they have to sit overnight. So they're like, my office has like cookies in the background.
What?
Like, yeah. And then actually, I could probably show you if I move.
Please, I want to see it.
You see right there on top of that like
Yes,
box, there's
I
cookies,
do.
just
Wow.
resting. And so those sit overnight, Raichele,
Okay.
and then they bake for an hour at 220. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's this entire process. And every time I do this, it's not like my 4th year of making those. My
Okay.
wife is just like, "What are you doing?
You
Like,
guys
what are
have
you
variety.
doing to yourself?" Yeah, you need variety.
I'm just used
You
to the
gotta.
sugar chocolate chip, but you guys have the whole thing going, like the whole shebang.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit too much. And my cardiologist, when I see him in January, is probably like, "Yeah, it's absolutely too much." Because
Oh my
one of my
goodness.
favorite Ted Lasso lines. Well, like my doctor told me when I addicted to fettuccine alfredo, that's a little rich for my blood, and I
Mm,
do like fettuccine
mm.
alfredo too.
Pasta. I mean, pasta
Yeah,
alone is just
excellent.
chef kiss, chef
There
kiss.
you go.
But I'm gonna go into my song lyrics. I chose lyrics from Ambition by Wale and Rick Ross. And it says, Ambition is priceless. That's something in your veins, and I doubt that ever change. I looked up the definition of ambition. We all know what it means, but it said
Right.
a strong desire to do or achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. And you already touched on it a little bit, but Jalen Hurts was coming back after his ankle sprain. And then we had the guest in that game, Gardner Minshew had to play starting quarterback in his place,
Yep.
completely balled out. Gardner Minshew did his thing. Then we go on the bye week. It's been literally, I think, 23 days since Jalen Hurts had played up until yesterday. So he had went on this break. There was a lot of pressure. I feel like there was a lot riding on him coming into this game, especially against Washington, because we know the circumstance with the division teams,
Yep.
and all of these games are capable of being won. So pretty much like just the fact that he had so much riding on this game, I feel like we knew that if he lost this game, there was going to be a huge problem on our hands. And we thought the conversation with Gardner Minshew was bad. I think that would have spiraled. I think that would have completely blew up a true quarterback controversy if he would have lost to Garrett Gilbert out of
Yeah.
all people. So I just feel like the lyrics say ambition is priceless. That's something in your veins. And I think that speaks directly to Jalen Hurts. He is showing us that he has a strong desire to improve. He has a strong desire to win and be successful. And it continues to show in games like the one against the Washington football team on Tuesday, where he completely had one of his best performances. He did what he had to do. So that just shows you that he can potentially be our franchise quarterback, because he has that dog mentality. He has that hunger to win. And when it clicks and it's good.
Yeah. And it clicked, I'd say, maybe second quarter on. It
Yeah.
really sort of started to click for him. You mentioned Garrett Gilbert. Our good friend Michael Kist had a great tweet on Tuesday night, which is basically the Eagles have given up 17 points to Garrett Gilbert, which is 27 too many, which I
Yeah,
thought was a perfect way to sort of sum up the
it was.
night. Shifting to Hurts, he did struggle early. Like there were
Mhm.
mistakes early in this game, and the interception that doesn't matter. That was
Wasn't
a
his
freak
fault.
play, like whatever.
Right.
But you know, even that first big completion to Goddard, right? That like
Mhm.
19 yarder
Yep.
on the crossing route on a 3rd and 6, like midway through the first quarter. He's got Rager open on a go route along the right
Mhm.
side of the field. Now, I think what happens there is they're showing him a single deep safety pre-snap, and
Mhm.
they kind of rotated to a cover 2, and they kind of inverted on the backside because the guy that ends up playing one of the half field safeties is aligned as a corner over
Okay.
Rager, and he
Okay.
kind of slides to that half field. And I think what happens is he sort of sees that as single high, sort of reads it as more of a cover 3. And with that
Mhm.
guy playing so deep, he doesn't think he can throw that. And against that single high coverage, you're going to hit that crossing route coming over. But Rager's wide open. And, if he throws that, it's probably a touchdown, but he doesn't throw it. You have
Mhm.
the sack fumble where he's very conservative when he had opportunities to throw
Yep.
downfield. You have that long sort of scramble drill where he ends up rolling to his right. Devonta Smith makes a great catch along the sideline,
Mhm.
but he had Smith open earlier the route. Like he
Yeah.
initially pulls it down for no reason, and then he finally sort of figured it out. Like I think, you know, a real good sort of get him into the flow play was the 2nd and 9 sort of boot throwback early in the second quarter to Goddard, where Goddard
Yeah.
goes up, makes a great play, but it's like you could feel him sort of finally get into the flow of things. He had a 3rd down and 2 miss near the red zone
Mhm.
where he
Mhm.
locked on Smith early. Like
Yes.
you could tell he was I'm throwing this to Devonta Smith. And even though Gainwell is open on a little spot route, he's just like, no, I'm throwing it. And Devonta's basically like triple covered because you've got two defenders, you've got the end zone and the sideline of the end zone. And yeah, it just that didn't click to me. The one that I loved, and I think Quincy Avery was talking about this play earlier today on Twitter, who coaches Jalen Hurts in the offseason. 2nd and 6, 3:45 of the second quarter. There's a stick swing concept to the left side where he's got the little stick route inside, running back to the swing. He looks at him, doesn't like him, and he comes and he hits sort of the backside dig from Goddard. And you can see his eyes and his feet are just in sync as he's going through all three reads. And Quincy basically had like a proud papa moment. I'm going to like pull up his tweet right here because, again, this is a guy that coaches Jalen Hurts in the offseason.
Yeah.
And he had a tweet about seeing Jalen tie his feet to his eyes, get into number 3, the third read. It's probably something that I'm most proud to see. Takes discipline and shows you he's maturing in the pocket. And that's the stuff you want to see to see him get to that third read, to see the eyes, the feet, the mind all tied together. I mean, it's teaching tape type stuff. Now, you have all the mistakes earlier in the game, the missed opportunities, the missed throws, the conservative decisions, pulling the football down when he doesn't. But then you see moments like this, and like you say, it's like, yeah, okay, this could be the guy.
Yes.
Like, am I completely 100% sold? Like, no. It's rare that I'm 100% sold on a guy anyway. But that's a moment where you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I definitely think in this game, his good outweighed the bad. Like you said,
absolutely.
First quarter was rusty. And I think rightfully so, because like I mentioned, it had been 23 days, correction, since he had played. So I think that he was kind of, trying to find that rhythm, getting back into the flow of things. But the play that you mentioned with Devonta Smith, when he had Kenny Gainwell under, that one was definitely one of the bad plays that I took note of. And the main thing that I noted was like his inability to see the field in that particular play.
Right.
The decision making. And it cost the Eagles because they had to end up I think that's when they settled for the field goal. So I'm glad that you brought that play up because that's the one that I had down for bad. We already talked about the Dallas Goedert play wasn't his fault. So even though it's marked as an interception, it wasn't on Jalen Hurts. And then the other one of him, pretty much when he got the sack fumble, that was his fault. I think I noted taking too long to get rid of the ball, like you mentioned, because you kind of tell like he was indecisive. He didn't know what to do, and all of that time that he took, Montez Sweat, I'm pretty sure is who it was able to break through, and that was bad. But there was a lot of good that I saw. You talked about the really, really nice throw to Devonta Smith.
Yep.
That one was phenomenal. But I also took note of the back shoulder throw that was to Greg Ward Jr. Yep. And I think that was the one that kind of like sealed the game. So I think that was one of his best throws of the game, his career. It could arguably have been as well. And it was a really nice drive that I think sealed the game, like his best drive of the night. But I mean, he did well. I think he did a really good job. He completed 20 of 26 passing attempts for 296 yards with the touchdown. He did have the interception. Wasn't his fault. He rushed for 8 times for 38 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns, and he set a new franchise record with most single season rushing touchdowns by a quarterback at 10, and he passed Michael Vick from 2010. I did also want to note that Dallas Goedert dropped 2 big passes that were like right on target. So that's also something to take note of too. When you look at 20 of 26, he could have had 2 more completions if Dallas Goedert would have caught those balls. So, but I think overall, Jalen Hurts did what he had to do. He looked good, and I hope that he continues to move forward and improve because we have some more easy games. We have Washington again. We have the Giants coming up next and the Cowboys. So if he can build on this performance, like we talk about every single week, we don't want you to backtrack. You need to get better and better. But this was a strong statement win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's all, pretty much spot on. I mean, I think, the numbers, they need the context, right? Like the drops, the weird interception. And so it's important to note that stuff. I did want to sort of talk about 2 plays that you mentioned there. One, the strip sack, and then the Ward touchdown. The strip sack, Sirianni deserves a lot of credit for his play calling. last night. He called a lot of designs that I thought were great, and this one is one of them because first of all, you basically started off with a Y ISO design. You've got Jackson in the game as a tight end. You've got Devonta Smith in the backfield, which I think is really cool. They did some wrinkles with Smith. They had Smith lined up a tight end on a Hurts touchdown run. I mean, they did some cool things from formation standpoint. And so you see the impact of the bye week because you can play around with some new things. And so you have Smith in the backfield running the wheel route. You've got Jackson running the post. I really like that on the backside. And then front side, you get what people call double China 7. So you get the inside receiver on the trips running that corner out to the back corner of the end zone. And then the two sort of like 6-yard or 8-yard in cuts from the guy on the outside and the guy in the middle. The guy on the outside, Gainwell, is again wide open. Like, did he drop a bunch of passes in practice? Like, did he like step on Hurts' toes in the locker room? Like, because this is now another play where he's wide open. Like, there's a moment I'm looking at it right now, and I got it sort of paused. Hurts is starting to throw, and it looks like he wants to hit that sort of corner route. But you've got this backside, you got the cornerback covering that. Maybe he wants to throw the post route, but the post safety's in the middle of the field. Gainwell is on the 0 in the 10-yard line marker, and there's nobody within 10 yards of him. Like, just nobody within 10 yards of him. And, if he gets his eyes to, like Quincy Avery talked about, gets his eyes to 3, I don't know if it's a walk-in touchdown, but this is a 2nd and 6 play. He's already got the first down. And you've probably got 1st and goal at like the 10. And instead, he's too conservative. He ends up the strip sack, and you're going the other way. And this is, you're down 7-0. Like, that's no good. Let's talk about something that was brilliant. And you said it might have been the best throw of his career. I saw a lot of people with that take last night in the moment. And after rewatching it this morning, I kind of agree with it. Like, I do think it was perhaps the best throw of his career. And it reminded me of a throw that Wentz had in the back corner of the end zone that I think was against the Giants, but it was sort of like a great throw on that sort of wheel route to somebody working. I think this was a running back coming out of the backfield. Here you've got a wing receiver here. But what's brilliant about that play is you can again see the work that he's doing with Quincy Avery pay off on the field. Because you watch this and you've got that defender underneath in trail coverage. And Quincy Avery earlier in the year talked about an interception that Lamar Jackson threw against the Chiefs, where he was trying to throw sort of a post route between the two deep safeties, but you had that underneath defender kind of covered him with it back to you.
Okay.
And Quincy Avery called that underneath defender a monument defender, a statue defender, because he's not going to be able to get his eyes on you. He's not going to be able to pick up the ball because he's running away from you with his back to you. So you have to put the ball just outside of his frame because all he can really defend is where he can put his arms. And so you have to put the throw either high because your receiver's looking at you, he can go up and get it, and the guy can't make the play, or you put it to the back shoulder. And this is a drill that they work on because it's a throw you have to make in the moment. And here you see literally hours of off-season training pay off because you've got that monument defender, that defender underneath that can only defend where he can reach. So you put it to the back shoulder. Ward makes the adjustment. That's why you lift all them weights. It's why you do all that stuff in practice. It paid off right there. It was great to see.
It did. Did you see the one play? Well, no, it wasn't a play. The one clip where they went to show Nick Sirianni completely in Jalen Hurts' ear after, I think that was a sack fumble.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple people talking about how it seemed like after that happened, the switch went off because I don't know what type of player Jalen Hurts is, but some people like need that tough love a little bit more. And you're not used to seeing that. Nick Sirianni completely like going in on Jalen Hurts. You're seeing a air guitar, and them like on good terms. So that was the first time that I had really ever seen that, but it seemed like something switched after that. So I'm glad that they showed that clip,
Yeah. And I think that might be sort of a seminal moment in the coach arc of Nick Sirianni and the coach quarterback relationship, because we've talked this year a lot about how it seems sometimes Hurts is either really good at the beginning, really good at the end, or is slow at the beginning and then sort of turns it on, and you wonder a coach like Sirianni who has sort of developed this like players coach, reputation, right? A lot of guys seem to be buying in what he's doing. A lot of guys seem to be, the seeds were planted and they seem to be blooming and all that stuff. But I'm thinking about Marcus Freeman, the new incoming head coach at Notre Dame. And he talked about, yeah, I'm a player's coach, but it means that I want you to be accountable for things. Like, I trust you to do the right thing. But if you're not, I'm going to let you know about it, because I also believe that you'll be able to figure it out if I remind you and get on you about things that you need to be doing. You need to be doing things the right way. I trust that you're going to do that. And if you're not, I'm going to make sure you're aware of it. We saw that moment with Sirianni where it seemed to be his quarterback was struggling. His quarterback was making mistakes. His quarterback had broken some cardinal rules of quarterback play, and he let him know. And the switch, like you said, flipped. And so I think that was great to see. And rather than a rash decision to sit him down or bench him, to put Minshew in, or to just ignore it, it was, look, you need to be better. We got to win this game. We're playing Garrett Gilbert, who was in the AAF. He was just signed off the street. Like, we got to get a W here. Pull your head out of you-know-where. Let's figure this out.
That's what it looked like. You said it looked like he said, get your head in a game. That's what it kind of looked like he was saying. But I think that this also goes to show that Nick Sirianni continues to make a case for himself. We were so unsure about him in the beginning of the season, but you talked about his play calling decisions today and how creative he got, and, switching things up. And that just shows like he's developing also as a coach, and we love to see that. But you touched on Garrett Gilbert. And the wild story, they talked about when they were commentating about how literally like a few days ago, he was at home with his daughter, giving her a bath, or like sitting on the couch chilling. And then he gets signed 4 days before he took the field on Tuesday, which is wild. And so he signed with Washington football team in this emergency situation because Taylor Heineke was out with COVID, on the COVID list. And he finished 20 of 31 for 194 yards with 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He didn't look bad for somebody who had been sitting on his couch 4 days prior. He looked pretty good in his first, comeback.
I mean, I think there are 2 takeaways from it. One, like, he looked really good, especially given the context. And, you could ask about, why aren't you a little bit more aggressive? Why don't you blitz him more and try to confuse him more and things like that? Sort of the similar conversation we've had about Jonathan Gannon and this defense all season long. I think there's a more like 50,000-foot view of it, which is the NFL and football in general really need to make the most of those sort of spring leagues, right? Because he was in the AAF, played for the Orlando Apollos, and was playing well. And it's a sign that, like, if there is success with the USFL or the XFL, which are both sort of coming back in the spring, it's nice to get these developmental opportunities for players where they can then get another shot at the NFL. And Emery Hunt, who I love, who's great at CBS, he was talking about how, like, Gilbert this is the latest example of when you give people the opportunity to put some stuff on film, even if it's in a spring league or another developmental type league, that can open doors for people. Another example is Tyler Huntley. Like, Tyler Huntley is a guy that I thought should have gotten drafted. I was so mad when he wasn't invited to the combine that year because he was a more efficient and productive quarterback, and he was the best passer in the Pac-12 that year. And by the way, Justin Herbert was in the Pac-12 that year, but Huntley put up better numbers. I was furious when he didn't get a combine invite. I was furious when he didn't get drafted. In my profile of him, I wrote, a team with an athletic quarterback that can move around in the pocket would be very smart to sign him and draft him as at least a backup option. And you see that, but there are quarterbacks out there that just need opportunities. And Huntley was one, and we're seeing that play out right now. And again, a third aside here, can we stop though with a Lamar? Should be benched or should be,
No.
Can we stop with that though?
Somebody literally just mentioned me on Twitter. It was like QB controversy because I was tweeting about the Ravens game.
Yeah.
And somebody was like QB controversy.
No.
And I said, heck no. I don't see it. I think this is, and I talked about it, I think this is phenomenal job by the Ravens for pursuing Huntley, someone who has similar skill set to Lamar Jackson, because that's easier for the team to adjust to. They literally have the same play style. So that was a great job by the franchise. Kudos to them. But now you have arguably the best QB1, QB2 duo in the league right now, because Huntley could be a franchise. I mean, he could be a franchise QB, but I mean, currently he's a backup, but he did what he had to do. He looked really, really good.
He did. And I do wonder, Emery also talked about this with respect to Huntley. You trade him for like a second round pick, trade him to like Detroit or something. And in this quarterback draft class where yeah, there are guys that are intriguing, but you've now seen what Huntley can do in 2 NFL starts,
Yep.
one of which is against a team that right now is the top seed in the NFC.
Yep.
If you're like the Detroit Lions and you have to address quarterback, maybe instead of drafting one of those guys, you trade for Huntley. You take those 2 first-round picks you have and address, edge rusher with one of those guys off the edge, and maybe you get another receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Now you let Goff and Huntley battle it out. You know what both of those guys have done in the NFL.
Yeah.
That could be an intriguing sort of pathway for some teams. And so
Yeah.
it's the bigger overall point with respect to Gilbert when we saw on Tuesday night, which is these developmental leagues, we should root for them to be successful because A, it's more football in the spring and we all love football.
Yeah.
But it's also an opportunity to get players that maybe slip through the cracks of the draft or free agency or whatever to put some stuff on film. So there will be more players and more stories like this when it's like, hey, it's time to fill out our training camp roster. Let's sign Tyler Huntley or let's sign Garrett Gilbert because we've seen what they've done in these other leagues and it opens more doors, which I think is good because as somebody that watches quarterbacks all the time, it's hard to get 32 guys that are good at it. And so these stories are great. I love seeing them.
For sure. And talking about quarterbacks, we should shift to the Giants because they have some stuff going on with their quarterback.
Oh, dear God.
Right. So, like I mentioned earlier, the Eagles will be hosting the 4-10 Giants week 16. That's going to be December 22nd. So the day after Christmas at 1:00 p.m. And that's literally really short turnaround for the Eagles. But taking a look at the Giants, they're coming off of this blowout loss to the Cowboys, another division rival, 21-6. And most recently, Giants quarterback Daniel Jones on Monday, I'm pretty sure the Giants placed him on IR, which means that ends his season.
Yep.
So he's out for the rest of the season. He completed 232 of 361 passes this season, a career best. That's 64.3% for 2,428 yards, and he finished with a 84.8 passer rating. So now the question that remains, they have Mike Glennon and they have Jake Fromm. So both of them are going to be up for starting quarterback against the Eagles on Sunday. That's going to be interesting to see. And they're also kind of suffering a little bit more. They have wide receiver Sterling Shepard, but I want to touch on the quarterback before we even get into the remainder of the roster, the potential quarterbacks that they have that we have to prepare for.
I mean, look, as somebody that doesn't work over at Big Blue View, our Giants sort of sister site, yikes. I don't want to say like that a franchise is a full-on mess right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants are going through some things. The Giants are going through some things right now, and they've had injuries and things like that. They've struggled along the offensive line to get protection. They obviously fired Jason Garrett a couple of weeks ago. We already sort of talked about that. And yes, we're talking about a team that still managed to beat the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of weeks ago in a bit of a stunner. But this is a team that right now they shut Jones down. Mike Glennon, you know what Mike Glennon is at this point. You have portions of that fan base, and I think rightly so, clamoring for more of Jake Fromm to see what you have in Jake Fromm, who you just recently signed, who was sort of, let go or was on the practice squad in Buffalo. And so it's not a good situation. It's not a good situation at all. There are questions, and Daniel Jones talked about it this week. Joe Judge talked about it this week. His long-term future with the team. I don't think that Garrett will be the last name let go. I certainly anticipate Dave Gettleman, the general manager, to be let go. And then you're in a situation where you have a new general manager coming in, and he or she might look at Daniel Jones and say, I don't like this guy. This isn't my quarterback. Like, I want somebody else.
Yeah.
You have portions of the fan base saying, let's swing for the fences and try to get Russell Wilson via trade or entice Aaron Rodgers to come to New York City. They don't have a ton of cap room, though. It's kind of a struggling situation. Now, if it were me, I'd start Fromm because might as well see what you got. You know what Mike Glennon is. Maybe Fromm can do some things down the stretch where you think, okay, well, we also have some first round picks thanks to the trade with the Chicago Bears that allowed the Bears to go get Justin Fields. And so maybe you address – heck, I did a mock draft where I had them taking 2 offensive linemen in the first round because their offensive line is an issue. Nate Solder is at the end of his career. Andrew Thomas has been very much up and down. Will Hernandez, the guard, hasn't quite panned out the way we thought. They could literally draft 2 offensive linemen in the first round. So I think it's important for them to kind of see what you have in Jake Fromm, which is man, if you would have told me, Raichele, that by Christmas time, I would be saying it's important for a team to see what they have in Jake Fromm, I would have said, no, you're crazy, man. But that's where the Giants are right now. So we are where we were a month ago. This is a game the Philadelphia Eagles should win. This is a team that is struggling. And so if we're here after Christmas, I don't even want to think about it.
You can't lose twice. No. Because we know Jalen Hurts is going to play. Hurts is going to play. We know that.
Yep.
No, you can't have 2 losses within what is that? 3 weeks?
3 games, basically.
Well, 3 because of the bye week, so 3 games. Yeah, that'll be so freaking disappointing. Like so sad.
That's a nightmare scenario that we basically almost laughed off a month ago. Like, they can't lose. But this is a game similar to last night. That if you want to be a playoff team, if you want to say sort of, look, we've arrived, all that stuff, you got to win this game. Like you have to win this game. It's at home. This is a team down to a 3rd-string quarterback, although you just played a team that was, started a guy that was washing his kid in the bathtub when he got signed. And so, but you have to win this game. You have to find a way to win this game. And, with respect to what the Giants did a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't like some scheme that they played, some coverage that they played, some blitz thing that they designed. There were opportunities that we talked about. You can go back, gentle listeners, and listen. Jalen Hurts missed opportunities in the passing game.
For sure.
And so to win this game, I think you need to see the Jalen Hurts of the final 3 quarters last night and not the guy from the first quarter. And whatever Nick Sirianni said to him in that moment that you talked about and pointed out, was so smart. Say it earlier next time if you have to. Say it before kickoff if you have to, because you need to see that guy against the Giants to make sure you don't let this team hang around in this game.
Yeah. And I think just like we talked about how Jalen Hurts, had to come into this game kind of like with a chip on his shoulder because he knew the pressure and, just what would happen if he lost. I feel like it's the same situation going into the Giants game. You still have a chip on your shoulder. You lost to the Giants a few weeks ago. So you still need to come in with that same hunger, that same, dog mentality because you can't afford to lose this game.
Right.
Especially after coming, we need the consistency. We don't want it to be like, a strong performance and then you fall. Strong performance, then you fall. Like, we want to see consistent, strong performances. And he proved that he could do it against Washington. So we just need to see it again. But COVID and the injuries are definitely playing a part in this game. I had mentioned a little bit earlier, they placed their wide receiver Sterling Shepard on IR because of a torn Achilles. And then I also saw that Keon Crossan, their defensive back, he was placed on the COVID reserve list. So they had to sign linebacker Jalen Smith and Jaron Williams from the practice squad. And also on Monday, their head coach Joe Judge was talking about Kadarius Toney, and he hasn't played since week 11 because of some injuries, but he's expected to return. So that could be, help for them. But he's still on the COVID list. So guess what?
I mean, Tony's a fascinating player, a player that I really like watching. I think the Giants, one of the things that I didn't like about Garrett was how he sort of didn't use him enough. Like, he didn't use him creatively enough. And I think Freddie Kitchens has done a little bit of a better job, generally speaking, not with Tony specifically, but generally with some creativity to the offense. But it's a team that's struggling. It's a game that you should win. Of course, look, we're all sort of living through now year 3 or whatever of our COVID reality. And so, we're doing this on Wednesday. Who knows what happens over the next 24, 48, 72 hours. Things could sort of change. So there is that sort of to keep in mind, but it's a game that they should win. It's a game that I hope they do win because, keep this thing rolling and we'll just sort of see what happens. But I think generally with respect to Jalen Hurts against Washington, shaky start, really turned it on. That throw to Goddard was huge. The touchdown to Ward was huge. Like, these are the things we've been clamoring for. And it's yet more evidence that, the potential is there. The opportunity is there for him to be the guy going forward. But we need to see more of second, third, and fourth quarter Hurts and less of first quarter Hurts.
For sure. So, after the bye week, they did come back and they did, once they got things going, looked refreshed, recharged. So now we're back in full effect. We got to, keep pounding, like running the ball. The running the ball is really good too.
Jason Kelsey, by the way.
Yes.
Sprinting downfield. The first time I saw that play, Raichele, I was like, man, Goddard looks great.
I know, and then I had to run it back.
Because they each had like the white, with Goddard's wore a sleeve. I think Kelsey, it's just an elbow wrap, but like he looked like a tight end sprinting downfield.
He was moving. I was like, I had to keep playing it because I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was moving. You could kind of tell he was like, what's going on?
And then the best part of it, though, Sanders cuts inside.
Yes.
And Kelsey's livid because he's like, man, cut off the block. But that was such a good play. I mean, oh my goodness.
So, I mean, we just need more. We need more. You know, they're in full effect. We only got 3 games left, regular season. So we just got to, take advantage. And we are on a short turnaround. We played on Tuesday and now we're right back on Sunday, but they should be well rested and healthy after their bye week. So they'll be back on Sunday to host the Giants. That'll be December 6th, like I mentioned, after Christmas. So hopefully you guys enjoy your holidays this weekend. And that game will be at 1 o'clock p.m. We always do the BGN Instant Reaction Show immediately after the game. So tune in for that. Drop your 3-word responses. Don't forget to rate, leave a written review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. You guys know the drill. Hopefully we'll be back next Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, to talk some more positive Eagles football.
Hopefully we talk playoffs.
Yeah, we need it. So do you have any last words, Mark?
Hopefully, all gentle, dear listeners, have a wonderul holiday with your family and your friends. Stay safe. Remember, Christmas, like Thanksgiving, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't eat all the cookies, like, right when you roll up. Like, spread it out. And, Raichele, it's been a blast this season. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Go Birds.
Go Birds.